Let me show you Africa as an entrepreneur. Africa is a fundamental part of the global economy.
There's a way the world does business and there's a way we do business.
When we put our faith and our trust in God, He's the master strategist and always directs our path. So it's a vibrant, young market with lots of energy.
Along with our diverse cultures, provide us with rich insights into God and His creativity.
There are people building businesses. So come see that Africa.
Welcome to the Faith-Driven Entrepreneur Group. I'm Peter, I'm from Egypt, head of OASIS Accelerator. I'm your host for this session, and I'm talking to you from the Nile River in Cairo. As Christians, we know we're meant to be people of faith, but what does faithfulness look like in your business? Perhaps you have heard the saying that a camel and its driver each have their own plans. The riders must pull the reins to direct the camel, bending the animal to their will instead of following where it leads. So here's the question. Do you treat God like our camel or like the rider? This is what we mean by being faithful over willful. Faithfulness requires us to follow God's path instead of trying to force our will onto His. Entrepreneurs face challenges every day. We lose a big customer or we miss out on a big deal. Sometimes these moments happen far outside of our control, like the COVID-19 pandemic. These large, pivotal events show us where our loyalties really lie, in our own wills or in God's. How do you act in these situations? Do you stay faithful with what God has called you to, or do you try to overstep God? Are you the camel or the rider? The next video offers a clear idea of what it looks like to stay faithful, even when willfulness appears to be so much easier.
My name is Shady Hebeish, and I work at Hebeish Group. The company started 78 with my grandfather, joined with him my dad and his brothers, and we are the third generation. There was an unction, there was something pressing me to go into ministry full-time. And amazingly, my dad was so happy and he said, go ahead. And I went to full-time ministry for years. Until 2004, my dad he had a heart attack, and in less than 30 minutes he passed away. And at that time, I had to go back to business. After my dad passed away, I discovered that we had a $20 million debt with an interest rate of 16%. In Egypt, and at those times, not paying your debt means imprisonment. So it meant that at least my two uncles, myself, and two of my cousins would be in prison for many, many years. We were in it together, and I felt that we believed that God would do a series of miracles. He did much more than we asked or think, but still we believed then something is going to happen. I had to leave what I was doing. I had to leave the ministry. I had to go back to a business to work with people I did not choose. And I cannot leave. One of the things is that when I went to the company, it was the time when I went in work, it was the time where they were doing the agreements. It was just 6 months after my dad passed away. And I remember my uncle calling me and said, here, this is the agreement. I will need you to come and sign. But one or two of the things he said were not convincing for me. But also what's more is that I did not feel a check. I felt that something inside is not right. But yet I prayed, and the unrestness would increase. And so I went back for the first time in my life to tell my uncles that I'm not signing this contract, this agreement. The tension stayed for 48 hours. A divine appointment happened. My oldest uncle then, he said, I have a very good bank consultant. We handed the agreement to the guy, and he said, this is a terrible agreement. This is a death sentence to the business. And I remember after he left, my other uncle turned and said, "Praise the Lord, because the Lord today has saved us from a big trap." And from there, we had a negotiation with the bank, with this consultant helping us. We had an agreement, we had a plan. It was much, much better. This is our cornerstone. For us, at that point, every year was a harvest year, where 10 folds were given.
So when my uncle started producing HDPE pipes, he was the only one in the market because the market was a PVC market. So there were many people manufacturing PVC pipes and no one knew what HDPE was. So he stayed a while trying to market it and no one knew what he was talking about. Consultants didn't know what it was, contractors and so on. So he started, marketing it, and then all the other companies followed when the market started shifting from PVC towards HDPE or high density polyethylene.
And this product today has been used in high rises, iconic places, in the Cairo capital, the new capital, in Alamein high rises, places that will be well known throughout the world, just like the high rises in Dubai and the Burj Khalifa. There are projects like this in Egypt now, will be known to the people.
It's important to differentiate yourself in the market, and there is a lot of competition. It's an easy market to penetrate. So if you don't have the quality, then you're just like everyone around you. So it's very important to make sure that your product is a good product that will last more than 50 years, because this is not something that you use for a couple of years. This is something that is meant to be there for 50, 100 years.
We are an innovative company. We have always been one step ahead. And yes, this is something that makes us special. And I believe God is God who always is a creative God. He's God of the creation. Being creative and being innovative is part of his DNA, and we believe it's part of Hebeish's DNA too. 2011, I don't know if you know history, but it was the year of revolution. Things were very messy here. And we had a meeting. We read from the Isaac, when the Lord said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Stay here, work in this land, and I will give you harvest." And I remember he said, "I believe this year is going to be a harvest year." And in 2011, we made the highest revenue since the company started. And at that time, people were closing up. They were just trying to maintain the business. Some people even went broke. Businesses went out of businesses. That was divine. There's nothing we could do that we couldn't have done it. Today, I'm just here to say that God has been so faithful. It wasn't easy. It wasn't always linear. Sometimes up, sometimes down, but much more than we asked or thought. But we have to stay faithful, because He is always faithful. They said the debt would not be paid back, and if we could do it, it would be over 3 generations. It's not only that we paid it, but what we have created, Hebeish Group, the portfolio we have, and the name today in the market, it's unbelievable. It's only God. There was a lot of ways where you can make money that would not be with integrity. We helped people. Integrity meant giving help, giving to the society, even when we could have held back info that would help us, give us an edge.
It could have been challenging at times, trying to maintain the good quality of products, trying to think of new things to introduce to the market, maybe with some financial constraints or when things were a bit tough. So it was always a conscious decision to make sure that we're not going to compromise on quality, we're not going to use inferior material, we're not going to try to make a quick sale and run. So it's always been there, but I think it's been rooted from our parents, I guess, and the older generation has always been rooted. We have to make sure that quality is top.
We give a time period, and within this time period, things will be done. And I think this is one of the things that makes us stand out, because our words are solid.
Now, Habish is always known. The price might not always be the lowest price, but we were always a guaranteed name with honesty and with reliability.
Growing up, the debt was always in conversation, but now the language is different. You know, it's like, okay, so we have, like, what are we gonna do? Like, where do you want to invest? Like, it's not about the debt anymore. It's just, let's enjoy other decision-making processes that has no limitations to something that has been there for so long and limiting you for so long.
Going to a new place that's just desert with a trench, fixing pipes, and then visiting it again, seeing things coming up, it's very rewarding. And it's nice to see that, yeah, there's a new city. We hear of the new Alamein, for example. You know that our pipes are there. You know, there's a new capital, you know our pipes are there. So it's very rewarding. And every time you visit it and you find development, you're like, you know, there's part of us there.
For us, the business, things were not always going linearly from one success to another. We had times where things went well, times where things went very bad. Staying faithful and believing that life is not just linear, and even with God, things sometimes there are successes and there is setbacks. Habish name means to people in business integrity, honesty, humility, their humbleness. People are humble in the sense of being approachable. It's a name that has been there for so long with the same values. It's only getting better. Usually things decay, but in the kingdom with the Lord, things go from glory to glory. I think Habish family is that.
Like most entrepreneurs, King David faced significant adversity throughout his life, and we have the Psalms as a result of his many trials and tribulations. From his words, we can learn much about the importance of trusting in the Lord always, especially when times are tough. In Psalm 31st, David writes, "My times are in your hands. Let your faith shine on your servant. Save me in your unfailing love. Let me not be put to shame, Lord, for I have cried out to you." It can be hard to tell the difference between faithful and willful, especially when you think you are doing the right thing. But here's a way to test it. If we found ourselves thinking, I want to do God's will, but I just want to do it my way, we might be in trouble. When you try to do things under your own power, you're being willful. It can be disguised by words that seem virtuous, like grit, determination, and perseverance, but these traits can have us traveling apart from God, seeking our power, not His. We turn God into the camel and try to control Him. This will always leave us depleted, tired, and lonely. We're not meant to be the rider. We're meant to go where God leads us, and He empowers us with the energy and love to do good work under His power for His glory. Another way to look at it is the difference between contending what God has directed you to do and striving what I want to do. Contending means I bring all that I'm in obedience to God, but surrender my desire for control. We release the outcomes to Him. Contending is a position of dependency and entrusting the results, timing, funding, everything to God. Our businesses can go through dramatic circumstances that force us to change directions. But God's purpose for our work will never waver. The why remains the same, even the methods changed. It can be dangerous if our joy and purpose comes from our circumstances. When that happens, then we cannot help but be impacted greatly by outside forces. It's important for us to remember that God doesn't need us to make money. He simply wants us to experience the joy that comes from pursuing a call to create that He places on our hearts. He wants to lead us to this place of joy, rest, and peace, but we have to surrender control to Him. Your faith-driven entrepreneur group can be the people you need to help you see your blind spots. Lean into this community. Oftentimes, what you put into these relationships is what you will get out of them. The more honest and transparent you're with others, the more loving and edifying they will be with you. Open yourselves up to learning from one another. Be open and honest with each other. What you get out of this time together will only be as rich and edifying as what you put into it. Blessings on your time.